Republican presidential candidate Lindsey Graham has been calling for American troops to be put on the ground in Syria for months. He's planning to introduce a resolution to authorize military force against ISIS in the next few weeks. The senator joins us now here in New York. Senator, thank you for coming in.
Thank you for having me.
You can't give away a full battle plan, and there isn't one, but just talk about what you think U.S. troops would do in conjunction with allies on the ground. What would the mission look like?
Destroy the caliphate, take Raqqa back, take Mosul back, take Ramadi back, repair the damage over time in Syria, but going on the ground, destroy the caliphate, pull it up by its roots.
How long would that take?
You know, I don't know. I'm not a military planner, but I can say that a modern army exists in Egypt. Turkey has a fairly large army, so does Saudi Arabia. This is reverse of what we've done in the past. Normally, we've gone into Afghanistan and Iraq with large Western forces and some regional forces. ISIL's different. I don't think anybody believed in Jordan or Saudi Arabia or Egypt that Saddam Hussein would take over their government and cut their heads off. They don't believe the Taliban would invade their countries, but everybody in the region sees ISIL as a threat to their leadership and their societies. So the neighbor next door in the form of ISIL will generate more interest than any other war we've had in the Mideast.
I understand what you're saying. There's a different set of different enemies,
different threats,
different conditions, but no American president has gotten those countries to commit significant troops to fight Arab
Bush
against.
41 did.
They contributed money. They contributed political support. They were a very token part of the operation. Well,
this is a different threat. And if you talk to them, which I do on a routine basis, one of the top leaders of Saudi Arabia, who will remain nameless, told John McCain and myself a couple of months ago, you can have our army. The Emir of Qatar said we'll pay for the war because they understand the ISIL threat is existential to their existence. They just want to put Assad on the table as the price of admission. They're not going to destroy ISIL and turn around and give Syria to Iran. So if you put Assad on the table, they will go in large numbers to destroy ISIL because it's in their interest to do it, but we have to be part of the team.
The authorization for military force that you are proposing is sweeping, you would acknowledge.
It's the same as the one we used against al-Qaeda.
It's not time limited, not geography limited, right? All of the other authorizations of military force that are out there floating around are considerably less sweeping.
That's true.
And yet there's not political support, or has not been political support for them. So first of all, how do you hope to overcome that political resistance that exists for even more cautious authorizations to get your more sweeping one through?
There's ISIL before Paris and ISIL after Paris. There's the election before Paris and after Paris. If you do not understand now that ISIL is coming here, you're deaf, dumb, and blind. If you think they're being contained, you're just very misinformed. So after 9/11, the American family came together. We said we're going to get al-Qaeda no matter where they go, no matter how long it takes, and whatever means necessary. All I'm doing is taking the al-Qaeda resolution and inserting ISIL because I think they're a direct threat to the homeland, even greater than al-Qaeda.
And why is Hillary Clinton wrong when she says that the current authorization of force is not sufficient to meet this threat?
I think Hillary Clinton and President Obama are wrong not to understand that ISIL is different than al-Qaeda. They hold territory the size of Indiana. They have an existential threat that al-Qaeda doesn't possess at this moment. So the caliphate has to be destroyed. It can't be contained. And the good news is the region is ready to be led if we'll do the leading. So the 2001 resolution is completely tied to what happened in Afghanistan. I think ISIL deserves a resolution of its own given their behavior.
We've got a new poll we talked about earlier. 53% of both Democrats and Republicans say military cooperation in dealing with ISIL is a good idea. You disagree with that. It seems like the French, at least,
are talking about with the Russians, you mean?
I'm sorry, with the Russians.
Yeah.
It seems like the French think it's a good idea because they're having a meeting next week when they're meeting with the United States as well. Why are others wrong? Why is cooperation with Russia now a bad idea?
If the price to get Russia on board is to keep Assad in power, it's a terrible deal. A good deal would be the world fighting ISIL, including the Russians, because they're a threat to mankind, not just to the region. They're a threat to everything.
But can't you just beat ISIL first and then deal with Assad later?
I would say that Germany, ISIL would be Germany, but to get the Russians involved, they're going to say this regime has to stay in power, and that's terrible for us. The region won't accept it. The Syrian people won't accept Assad as their leader.
Defeat ISIS and then change the plan.
You can't do that.
Why not?
What you've got to do is you've got to look at two things at once. There are two threats coming out of Syria. If the Iranians dominate yet another Arab capital, that's bad for us. If Assad stays in power, the Syrian people are not going to accept that.
Just to be clear, you want U.S. forces with allies, including Arab allies, to go and get Assad and remove him.
Here's what I want. Just follow through. I want to get a regional army. mostly them, some of us, the French, Western powers, to go in and destroy the caliphate. Then I want us to turn and say, Assad cannot stay. Let the Syrian people pick the next leader, not the Iranians and the Russians. Now, here's what Russia and Iran would be looking at: the entire Arab world, Western powers, and Turkey. So what I want to do is neutralize Iranian influence in the region. I do not want Russia to be able to dictate the terms of the future of Syria by force of arms.
There are some very hard-headed military analysts and very hard-headed people in the intelligence service who think that going in and just taking out Raqqa would be enough, right? That would be just that would make the ISIL and the Islamic State, however you want to call them, would make them look like losers and would begin the crumbling. Take that territory. Do you reject? That's a much more limited objective.
I don't reject the idea of sort of you got Ramadi, you got Mosul, and you got Raqqa. If you could take the capital of the caliphate down, then that's a good step forward. But what I'm looking for is their destruction. Now, to win the war against radical Islam is a generational struggle. Unlike Rand Paul and others in my party, we've got to build up young people. The terrorists offer a glorious death. I want to offer a hopeful life. Most young people in the region don't accept what ISIL is selling. Very few fathers and mothers want to turn their daughters over. So investing in a small schoolhouse in a remote region in Afghanistan will do more to the Taliban than a bomb. Same in Syria and Iraq. So I'm in it for the long haul. Military force is only part of the equation. Over time, building up societies is the goal here. That's what destroys radical Islam.
I want to play a little bit of video and sound for you, something you said back in September related to refugees, and then we'll talk about the refugee situation.
Absolutely.
What should be the U.S. response to the refugee crisis?
We should take our fair share. We are good people. Yes, I understand that among them can be terrorists, and we have to watch that. But the vast majority of little boys and little girls and good people who have been kicked out of their homes by the most radical movement since the Nazis. I don't see how we can lead the free world and turn our back on people who are seeking it. We should take the Statue of Liberty and tear it down. This is our response as a nation: just tear it down, because we don't mean it anymore.
Now, I know you say that there's a world before Paris and a world after Paris. That was the world before Paris. Nonetheless, you appreciated the seriousness of ISIS. So you have changed your mind now on refugees. You want to pause.
Yeah, I want a timeout.
So you want a timeout. So how is that not inconsistent with your view currently, not inconsistent with that view where you were not calling for a pause or a timeout?
Paris. It's apparent that one of the terrorists apparently was able to slip into the refugee flow. You always worry about these things, but that's no reason to stop the process. What I want to do is a timeout so that we vet people well. Nobody benefits from letting a terrorist sneak into the refugee flow. I'm not saying we'll never take any refugees, and what I am trying to tell my Republican friends, there are 20 ways to get into the country. Refugee status is just one. Most of the attackers were citizens of the country in question. I want to destroy ISIL. That's what makes it safe, not stopping refugees.
Your friend and endorser, John McCain, came out very strongly yesterday saying that people like Ted Cruz, who are saying there should be a religious test, ban the Muslim refugees, accept the Christian refugees.
Did he really say that?
Ted Cruz said that. Yeah, it's a federal
bill
he wants to introduce. So what kind of test do you
give them? Do they got to serve? See, this is kind of an odd construct. Do most Americans really care if the woman raped and the child abused is Muslim or Christian? I don't think so. So this idea that we'll only take Christians is not what I am suggesting. Right. Let's have a timeout. Let's take people who are vetted regardless of their religion, but forget about taking refugees as much as destroying the reason they leave their country. How about a safe haven in Syria so they don't have to come here to begin with?
Let's talk some politics. The Graham surge in your presidential race has not occurred yet.
It's 2% in New Hampshire.
Not occurred yet.
It's a start.
You've surged from asterisks to 2.
Yes.
It's not occurred yet. Well, how would you characterize the race overall?
I don't want to peak too soon.
I understand. We got a couple weeks ago. How would you characterize the race? Who are the front runners? Who's got a chance?
Well, it changes almost weekly. Donald Trump's vision of the world is going to be challenged post-Paris. Ben Carson's a fine man, but his foreign policy is going to be harder to understand post-Paris. You've got 4 people right now. You got Trump, Carson, Rubio, and Cruz. Then you got Jeb, and I'm down at the bottom. Here's what I think. After this attack, people are going to be looking for experience. Having experience will matter more, not less. In the year of the outsider, people are going to say, well, when it comes to commander-in-chief, do I want an outsider or somebody who's ready to take the job on day one? I think over time, I'm going to do well in New Hampshire because John McCain endorsed me last week. And we put a commercial on the air with John saying Lindsey Graham has the best plan and best prepared to defeat ISIL Tuesday before the Paris attack on Friday.
Are your Senate colleagues, Senator Rubio, Senator Cruz, have they been senators long enough to have some national security experience, credentials from their time in the Senate?
I don't think it's so much as a matter of time. Ted Cruz is all over the board. He doesn't have any consistent vision. He's been just about as wrong as Rand Paul. He objected to a no-fly zone and a safe haven to train the Free Syrian Army 3 years ago when it mattered. He objected to using force when Assad crossed the red line. He objected to trying to help the Libyan people after Gaddafi fell. He said that we'd be the al-Qaeda Air Force. I think he's really been completely misunderstanding. Marco's a good guy. I can just tell you this. I'm 60 years old. I've been to Iraq and Afghanistan 35 times, 140 days on the ground as an Air Force reservist, 30 years in the Air Force trying to understand this war and how to win it. I'm certainly better prepared to lead at 60 than I was 44.
The premise of your earlier comment about your potential rise is that people will flock to experience in this moment of instability.
I don't know if they'll flock, but slowly walk.
Or slowly walk. Why is it not? Why is it not the case? Why is it not the case, given what we've seen in other countries in the world for many years, that in these instances strong men rise up? Why does this not all just benefit Donald Trump?
Well, because there's a difference between a strong man and somebody who just is loud. He's got high energy and bad ideas. He has high energy and doesn't understand what the hell he's talking about. I have energy with understanding. That will matter over time.
Who's going to be your Secretary of Defense?
Who's going to be my Secretary of Defense? I will get back with you. I'm thinking about that later. Not now. I'm trying to get up to 4% in New Hampshire. And the day I do, we're going to be on this program.
When you come back, please bring your list of all of your cabinet. We're going to quiz you on that next time. All right, thanks to Senator Lindsey Graham.